Hey everybody, Pastor Fern with your daily update. It is May 19th. It's a Tuesday of 2020, but at this point, really, who cares? Um, no, really, seriously, it is one day closer to being together again. As we this week, we're looking at some of the uh, segments of what we call sin or sinners. Yesterday we talked about original sin, which is our deep broken relationship with God that was kind of manifested in the disobedience to God in the garden with Adam and Eve. That was kind of the place where the disobedience was first shown to God in a very significant way. When Adam and Eve thought that they wanted to go ahead and eat the fruit of the tree, which would, in the promise of the evil one, would make them on a level with God, which didn't happen. But yet it showed that great disobedience. And today we're going to talk about transgressions. And transgressions and sin are, in our vocabulary has uh, kind of fallen into the same thing. We consider, that interchangeable words, but as we've talked about before, that's part of the problem with the English language and maybe in the way that it's been developed over the years, and some would say corrupted over the years, is that we take certain concepts, certain words, and we tend to categorize them in a big category instead of having specific meanings for them. We've talked about that with the word love from the Bible, where the Hebrew words for love there were several different ones that had a different connotation to it, and it was practiced that way. People understood if you used that specific word for a kind of love, whether it's brotherly love, whether it's a love for your significant other, if it was a love for some other friendship, whatever it might have been, they had a different word, and it had a more powerful meaning than using to categorize a group of things under one word. And we've kind of done that with sin. Today with transgressions, transgression means to go over the line, to step past a boundary, a limit. It comes from Latin word. The first part of the word means to step or cross over or go beyond, and the second part of the word, the gress part, which the Latin meaning would be to go, walk, step, stride, something like that. So basically what you got when you put this together is walking, moving, striding over a boundary, a line, something that has significance to cross. And in common talk, I a good example, I don't know what would be. One of the suggested examples, and maybe this will work for you, is sin is a little bit, let's say there's an archer who is ready to pull back his arrow and to fire. And sin would be more like if you were careless with that, and you would maybe, instead of beating in on your target, you would target maybe another person intentionally, or maybe that was the beginning of the thing. You were appearing to be using something in a target, and you end up actually going after some individual with your arrow. But a transgression is a little bit different. Think of someone who goes onto your property without permission. Someone who, despite maybe no trespassing signs, warning signs, danger signs, they go. It's still an intentional act, but it's maybe not an intentional act to actually cause someone else harm. Now, if you go past a no trespassing sign, you're transgressing on someone else's property. But maybe it wasn't for a malicious thing. Maybe you just wanted to look around. Maybe it wasn't that you were going to harm the person there intentionally, or maybe there's something there that can harm you, and they're trying to warn you, and you don't heed that boundary. And when we talk about it within the church context of transgression, we talk about crossing over against a social or cultural bound, against a public sense of right, morality, ethics. When we cross that, one of the things we have to be careful of when we talk about transgressions in the sense of maybe a spiritual or faith definition is, part of that is crossing bounds into cultures. We've had more experience in the last decade, 5 years, with other cultures than we've had in our area of the Midwest for a long time, as we have folks that are coming into our communities who are coming from somewhat different culture. But it's not a new experience for us, because 150 years ago, let's say, we had that same phenomenon. Most of the people who came into these communities were basically Europeans or Scandinavians, but the cultures were different, and there was clashes with those. And part of your transgression is to cross these social and cultural boundaries in a way that you're doing something malicious to someone else, that you are judging them, putting them down, or not allowing them to thrive because of their cultural background. And I think that's where we can relate this a lot today to our culture, because we have a new wave of recent friends and neighbors coming in that have come from a different cultural background. And we tend to maybe sometimes segregate ourselves. And I tell you, one of the things that's probably a key phrase, and I'm guilty of using it sometimes myself, and I try not to use it in this fashion. Sometimes it's, you are who you are from your life experiences. But the phrase "those people," if you start using the phrase "those people," you probably you might be in a scenario where a transgression could or will take place, because the using those definition often is a segregating and a cultural boundary, and then if you cross that boundary in some way that would cause malicious or harmful acts to that culture, you've probably created a transgression. And one of the things that as Christians, that we need to be aware of is that, of course, not all of us are Christians. In fact, as far as practicing Christians go, I think we're getting to be a smaller segment of our society than we've been for a while. We have a lot of folks who still have something in their hearts about a God, and the Christian God, but they don't practice their religion. They don't practice their faith, which, here's one of those places where a transgression could happen on my account if I would judge that. But I don't know what's in somebody else's heart, so I'm not going to go there. But we have to realize that people with different expressions of faith, even within our Christian family, we can easily go into this transgression area by judging them, saying, well, have they done this? Have they said these words? Have they done, a particular thing, which in your eyes might make them a Christian, which in their eyes that really doesn't have that much meaning, because their relationship with God is still faith, still based on an internalization of God and the Holy Spirit, and it's just not expressed in the same way. That it's a real difficult thing, going between denominations and going between churches who have a more independent stance, and people in my life that sometimes I find it difficult to deal with. I have a lot of friends who I grew up with and who I've known over the years who I believe are faithful Christians, where their hearts are filled with the Holy Spirit, but yet they have this idea that there is a particular order and a particular set of words, a particular way that you have to approach your faith in order for it to be legitimate. And one of those examples is I have a friend who has a deep faith, who had been a part of a similar a church that I had been part of for a time. And often when we get in conversations, I will say something about, well, so-and-so has put out this music that I think you would enjoy, a Christian-based music. And oftentimes, if it's someone who has been popular for a long time and maybe in a different genre, the question would be, well, when did they become a Christian? Well, you know what? I don't know if they ever were. I don't know if they are now, but their music has a powerful spiritual message, and that's not for me to judge. That's way above my pay grade to judge somebody's relationship with God. My job is to try to nurture a relationship and try to guide a relationship, and if I do that, I think I'm doing what I've been called to do. So watch our transgressions as we go through our relationship with those around us. Be careful if that word, those words, those people pop into your mind. Is that a judgment? Is that a separation? Are you going to create a boundary which you may cross? And once again, take care of yourselves. Watch out for others the best you can. We're going to be together again one of these days, and I'm looking forward to that. I just ask that you be careful, and may you be blessed. We'll see you tomorrow. Bye.